Good morning, everyone. This is T. Falcon Napier. Welcome to Building a Career That Matters. Let's go ahead and get back into the program that we started last week. So, this is again Roadblock number 14, and the issue here is about a lack of competitive differentiation. And I won't show you the research files again. You can listen to that recording for full detail. But what our research has shown is that the sweeping majority, 99% of all of the people who we've ever asked, will say that differentiating themselves is a very important thing for them to do. Some two-thirds of them will say that they believe that they are very well differentiated from all their colleagues. But when you ask them how they rate their ability to do so, the challenging of doing it, they say they don't know how to do that. So it's like there's this real disconnect. People think they're doing it, they know it's important, but the results are showing they really don't know how. They don't really see what the real problem is. And so we put together this module on competitive differentiation just to get you thinking about some of the many ways you can go about separating yourself from your worthy colleagues. Now, last time around, we talked about two of these types of differentiation in some detail. We talked about market differentiation and program differentiation. And as I flip through those slides, I'll just hit you with a reminder or two for those. But today we're going to be talking about service differentiation, style, and image differentiations as well. So a lot there is to do. Now, your goal is not to trump your colleagues on every single one of these advice points and every single one of these areas of differentiation. The goal is for you to just say, well, do I have at least something happening in each of these areas of differentiation that does make me stand out? So if you could just set as a personal goal to have one or two of these differentiators met for each of these five areas, you'd be different than your competitors in at least 10 different and significant ways. And I can only believe that that would help to sway things your way in a competitive situation. Okay, so with that, let's flip through these slides. So market differentiation, we talked about, are you someone who is going after an existing market? Or are you trying to create your own market? So obviously, if you can create a market, the chances of you differentiating yourself are tremendous. You're the one who created this whole new possibility, this whole new industry, this whole new whatever. But that takes a very long time to do. And along the way to creating that new marketplace, you may very well have to pursue opportunities in the existing marketplace. And that puts you in a very competitive situation. So you're going to need to even differentiate yourself at that level. Now, I'm reminding you of this one just because one thing came up after last week's call, and that was our own business. And so, here we are, the Institute for Productive Tension. And if you guys notice on all of our literature, there is a registered trademark after the words productive tension and after the words tension management. So years ago, I started putting together the concepts as they've grown into today. And I knew at that time that I was almost creating a new field of study, a new topic for human development professionals at the very least to put some energy into to really understand. And so I do feel like I've been working very hard to create a market, but I can tell you that creating a market takes a very long time, and there's lots of little, bumps in the road along the way. But if you have something you think really is unique enough, there's lots of room out there for new ideas, new insights, new wisdom to be presented. It was very interesting. This past weekend, I was invited to come to Atlanta and do a presentation for the Organizational Change Alliance. And so this is a group of, well, we had about 50 people at our particular event. I don't know how many they have in their organization overall, but it's a nice little business association. It's built out of people that have their backgrounds in organizational change, in OD. There were some HR people, there were some coaches, so there's quite a lot of diversity among the audience. And certainly there was a heavy leaning towards advanced academic degrees, advanced specializations, advanced licensing. So these people were highly competent and trained. But the majority of them are in private practice. And so here I am thinking like, okay, I'm going to present these topics of tension management. I wonder how well this subject is going to be received because, you got all these people with all these credentials that here I am going like, let me tell you how change really works. And so I was very pleased that within a few moments of the presentation beginning, it was very clear that everyone felt that they were getting insights that they thought were very valuable, getting them to think about things in ways that had never been brought up before. In fact, I had someone come up to me immediately after the program who said that they had recently completed their master's degree in organizational development and that they'd been in the industry for decades, but they just hadn't done the academic part of it till later on in their career. And the first thing they said was, "You have to write and release a book about this because I've gone through so much education on change and change management and organizational change and development and project management." And then it goes, and no one's ever talked about this before, and it changes everything the way that we do it. And so I take that as some real positive feedback, not only about the usefulness of the material, but that this really is a new pursuit, a new field of study, perhaps, or a new way of looking at this field of study. And so you can definitely do that. And if you've got a subject that you think could really, do that, then by all means, have at it. But along the way, you're going to have to work in the existing marketplace. So make no mistake about it. I had to do a lot of little programs on time management and about communication styles and attitudes. I mean, there were so many things that I had to talk about to find enough business to make ends meet as I was developing, and letting it really wasn't developing it. I mean, this program has been pretty much intact for, the past 2 decades. The real question was giving the population enough time to grow into something substantial enough to maybe someday reach a tipping point. And so that's it. So you can definitely do that market differentiation. Okay, now the second thing we talked about was program differentiation, and so this was leaning a little bit more towards the people who are actually delivering coursework. And so, what subjects are you choosing, and what populations are you doing, and letting your subjects evolve to have a new edition. So uh, let's see, getting a comment. Yeah, thank you, Eugene. You just said that it's definitely a unique approach. Yep, I think it is. So I think that this is what if you're doing any kind of programs or presentations, teaching any kind of coursework curriculum, then you really do need to be thinking about coming up with new subjects or coming up with a new way to present a more traditional topic. And certainly you want to allow your programs to evolve so that you can have the new edition or whatever it is. As I said, our coursework has remained pretty much intact for at least the past 20 years. But every year we seem to come up with a few new insights, a few new additions. And so we would probably call it more like the 2014 update, but something that just lets someone know we continue to evolve, not only as professionals, not only as business owners, but we continue to evolve our material as well. So now we get into the next little area. This is about service differentiation, and this should apply to all of you that are on the call that self-identify as coaches or consultants. So service differentiation is all about the delivery of things. Now, you could also put into services that you're a coach, or that you do assessments, or that you do some sort of like facilitation, mediation, moderation. A lot of the things that we do in the human development industry are more of a service we're providing rather than a subject that we're teaching. And so everything I said about the subject differentiation, the topic differentiation is going to apply here as well. So let's just talk for a moment about those of you that are doing coaching. Well, you already know there's a dozen plus different types of coaching that have been labeled. So do you position yourself as being just a coach? Or do you say, no, I am a specific kind of coach? And so we get people that are talking about executive coaching. Well, you can take it a step further than that. You could be an executive coach in nonprofit organizations. So you're an executive coach for people in the energy industry. So you want to do something to set yourself apart from everyone else who's labeling themselves as a coach or even as an executive coach. And you want to make sure that you let your services evolve as well. So when you're coaching with someone, is it really to your advantage from a marketing perspective that they believe that they're going to walk in and they're going to have a conversation, and wherever that goes, it ends up going? Or is it to your advantage to say that while you are willing to do that spontaneous kind of coaching, you also have a coaching process or methodology around a particular area of need? And a good example of this one is when we were out in California learning about the Money Coaching Institute. The Money Coaching Institute is, we've got several of our ChangeWorks professionals are also certified by the Money Coaching Institute. They have a very set kind of curriculum that their coaching kind of experience is going to evolve into. So they have some very specific exercises that get done in a very specific order, designed to create lots of insights, lots of awareness, and obviously by the end of it, some sort of change. So even though the people that are doing that work are trained coaches and could easily do this more organic kind of coaching, they also say, like, no, let's have some structure, let's do something. And so even if you can say, I may be an executive coach, but I follow a specific process, that could be a differentiator for you as well. So if you, bottom line, if you label yourself as a generic and you behave as a generic, don't be upset when people put you in the category of a generic. If you are a generic, then they're going to make their choice based on price, based on convenience, based on something that really isn't going to raise your perceived value. So the more of these differentiators you can incorporate, the more you become an outsider from your colleagues, the greater the perceived value you have may be. So please don't blend. Don't blend. Now, these are some other ways, though, that I think you can differentiate yourself. And it's not just about the services themselves, but the services that you provide to your prospective and existing customers as you go about trying to sell them whatever those programs or products may be, or services may be. So let's talk about 5 specific areas. The first one is, how do you get your prospects involved in what you're doing? So think about that. We'll get into it in grand detail when we get to marketing, but right now, how do people come to know that you even exist? So are you doing that hoping that search engine optimization is going to do that? Well, you and everybody else. And so if everyone keeps packing their websites with the exact same keywords and meta tags, then when someone goes searching for them, now you were just competing again. There was nothing that differentiated us. And so this whole belief that that packing our website with certain phrases and words that are then going to be searched for by the prospective one. Yeah, you can do that, and obviously you can hire a service provider to help you do that. But if everybody does that, it's no longer a differentiator. So you got to have something beyond keyword searches if you really want to get your kinds of prospects involved. And so what are you doing? Now, some people say, like, well, I have a blog. And so, that's how I inform people, and I give them some articles, and I talk about some of the things that are most important to me, and I talk about kind of events. And again, this is a category of, yes, you do that. You have a blog, and so does everybody else. How does a blog even stand as a differentiator now? Now, in all fairness, there's lots of things you could do to your blog and with your blog that would at least support it in standing out from blogs, but nevertheless, it's still a blog. And then we got people in the old days, and even continuing today, they go like, well, my newsletter is something that differentiates me. In all fairness, you could be viewed as different in your newsletter, depending on what the newsletter looks like and what you're talking about and that sort of thing. So there's always things you can do to at least be at the cream of the crop for that particular vehicle. But everybody else has a newsletter too. This is not a differentiator. And so if if we continue to work our way through these very typical sorts of things that everyone does, I don't want you to think that that's what differentiates you. You got to have something unique, something different that will allow them to go like, now that is a new and interesting way of doing things. So let me give you a few ideas about some things that I've done over the course of my career to help me get prospects involved. Okay, so the first one, and if you guys want to electronically laugh at me while I'm telling you this one, you go ahead. But I want to be really clear to you before I even tell you what this idea was, that I made a lot of money because of it. I got a lot of great clients. I had a lot of fun. I really, really had, I think it was a wonderfully smart thing that I did. And so, but I went into it with resistance. So here goes. I am in the human development industry. I am trying to find people who are either troubled in some way and help them to get untroubled, or I'm looking for people who feel fine about where they are right now but want to go to the next level. This is what I'm either trying to find people who have got problems I can help them solve, or I've got needs I can help them to address, or have opportunities I can help them seize. That's what I'm looking for. And I was looking in this particular little differentiator behavior, I was looking for individual clients. And so this could resonate with a lot of you guys that are coaches. And again, I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but recently I've seen more and more coaches appear at this kind of event. So here it is. I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the time, the home of the University of Michigan and a very large New Age community. And one of the things that the New Age community loves to do is to congregate. And they congregate at events like psychic fairs, or they congregate at events like alternative health weekend retreat sorts of things. And so I decided that I was going to purchase booth space at one of these psychic fairs. And my little placard next to my booth said that when you're ready for reality, you're ready for the change grid. And then I said, consult the oracle of the self. And so I wanted people to kind of walk up to the booth, and I had a change grid there. And I would say to the people standing in front of my booth, I'd say to them, all right, now I want you to think about a change that you are either in the midst of making or considering making or is heading your way, and you're going to be, confronted by it. So get some sort of change clearly in mind. And now I want you to answer two questions about that change. How do you rate your ability to get that change to turn out the way you want it to? And how challenging do you think it's going to be to get that change to turn out the way you want it to? I don't want you to tell me what the change is, but I want you to tell me what those two numbers are. And so I would then show them on the change grid where they intersect, and I would start telling them exactly what was going on with them about, emotionally, about their reasoning abilities, their decision-making abilities, with the resourcefulness or unresourceful of their emotions, their perceived availability of resources, their overall level of productivity, the likelihood of them following through and doing what needs to be done. And their jaw would open. They would say, how do you know all that? I didn't even tell you what the change was. And so I would say to them, this is what the change grid does. And I'd say to them, I'm not a mind reader, I'm a grid reader. And rather than looking at one activity in isolation, what you really want to do is look at the whole list of what those things may be. Now, if you haven't been to a psychic fair before, you should know that there's another element of a psychic fair, and that's people purchasing short readings. So there's a little sign up sheet that would be like, 15-minute blocks, and people would go up there and sign that they would do that, and then at their time they would come to your booth and you would do their little reading. And so I did this little razzmatazz show whenever there was a lull, but I probably had 95% of my spots filled before I was even an hour or so into the day of that particular workshop. And so I charge people $25 for a 15-minute reading, and so I was standing there making $100 an hour to do these little readings. But think of how many of those people said, well, we got to go more in depth in this. I mean, in 15 minutes, I was only able to help them craft an activity list and give them a little bit of insight. And this is before it was automated. So that's how it stood out. So I'm basically saying to you that I was willing, in the name of differentiation, I was willing to take what I considered to be a very professional, what I want to say, more left brain ruled way of changing or working with someone going through change. And I was willing to step inside of a very right brained, very emotional, spiritual environment because the people that needed my services most were physically there, but they were looking for answers in tarot cards and aura readings and energy balancing and all these wonderful things that could be very effective and can be a great deal of fun, but it wasn't what I did. And so I wanted to say to them, some people didn't like my little thing when you're ready for reality, you're ready for the change grid. But that's what it's really all about. I said, this is it. This is you talking to you about you. Let me help you understand what you're saying. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever considered going to any sort of a fair like that, but particularly for those of you that are coaches, the people that go to these psychic fair events are people who are saying that there is something going on that has either captured their curiosity or is concerning them greatly. I mean, people are going there hoping that they are going to get answers to some questions they might have. And whether those answers are, again, to problems that they are facing or to needs that they need to address, or they're trying to have some sort of opportunity to do something, they're there. They're not only there, they're there with dollars in their pockets, wanting to find someone to give them a kind of a reading. And because these readings are always only 15 minutes long, the people that go there go with pockets full of cash, and they're probably going to have two, three, four readings as they wander around and sign up for things. And so, why not look at your community calendar, see what kinds of psychic events or these new age sorts of events might be coming up, and look into getting some booth space. It's always cheap booth space, and you're going to meet a lot of really interesting people, and you'll make money while you're there, and you may very well have some clients come out of it because of it. So I don't mind saying to you that as a result of doing the psychic fair, I landed Michigan National Bank as a client. So one of the managers happens to enjoy, all things new age, and there she was roaming around, and here I'm introducing this, and of course I'm there trying to blend in, but I want to very quickly size up the person I'm talking to see if they would be, someone who has like corporate applications for what I'm doing, or something that's a little bit beyond the scope of the mystical, magical world of New Age. So you guys get what I'm saying there. So it's a lot of fun, but it's another idea. Now I'm not suggesting that you guys go and do that, but why not? Why not? These people are there and they're looking for answers, and you can help them get that. So I think another way that you get prospects involved has to do with how you create awareness about who you are. And so we got people that are out there just leveraging social media to the nth degree. Again, if everybody leverages social media, it's no longer a differentiator. Again, you'd have to find some sort of way to differentiate yourself inside of that type of social media. But in and of itself, social media is no longer a differentiator. So now, so you got to think about, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? So something else that we did is something you guys are all involved in. We decided to create the ChangeWorks community, and our community's been going on for years now. People have been joining the ChangeWorks community, and we've had all of our events for the ChangeWorks community. Well, the ChangeWorks community is really designed as it's an attempt to get people of similar mindset to come together, to congregate in one place. Now, the spirit behind first of all, the goal behind having the community is that by having this community, we will naturally meet the professionals who wish to move on to become licensed to use this with their clients. So, yeah, we have a goal of finding our licensed professionals, but we know that there's only a tiny fraction of the overall population that would meet the criteria and would be interested in doing it. And so we need to cast a wider net. And so I said, I want to create a community. I want to support people in the human development industry. I want to give them as much value as I possibly can, as many insights as possible, whatever. Hoping that as I do that, they'll learn enough about the change grid and change works and everything else. So they go like, that's interesting. Maybe I should learn more about that. Maybe I should become certified. And we know statistically that 1 out of every 6 people who become a member of our community do elect to go on to become certified. Not that we're heavily pitching. You guys know this. We don't aggressively pitch anybody on anything. They kind of naturally arise, and that's how they do that. Well, that's how we get our prospects involved. So, pardon me. We probably spend, or I'll talk about me personally. I know that I spend somewhere between uh, 16 and 20 hours per week on my community. And the other time is spent with our licensed professionals. So I'm devoting half of all of my energy to this whole community approach, and it's worked very well for us. Now, you guys might want to create your own kind of a community, and how you do that means that it can't just be a newsletter, it can't just be a blog. There has to be some opportunity for you to get people together so that you can have some interaction with them. And this is why we have things like the Changeworks forum, where people can just open up and talk openly on the line, ask whatever questions they have. And we do things like building a career that matters, and we do offer things like mastering personal change, and we give people their own personal change grid to use for the rest of their life. I mean, you have to imagine that there's a really high price tag attached to creating and maintaining the community, but it has proven itself to be well worth every moment of effort and every penny that we have spent on it. So if you can think about some way to create a community that would attract the kinds of prospects that you want most, and you got to give them lots and lots of value, and you got to stay in touch with them to make sure they're aware of what's going on and see value in their participation and all that. It's a great way to do what needs to be done. So again, if we look at our math, we know that around the world we're only looking for 1,000 certified professionals. And based on our formula so far, 1 out of every 6 community members, I only need to build a community of 6,000 people. And from those 6,000 people, mathematically, we'll get the 1,000 people that we're really looking for. So I am more than happy to give those other 5,000 people the most value-packed experience they've ever had. And hopefully you guys, as you've experienced what we do in the community, you do feel that we're giving you a lot of value, particularly for the little 99 bucks that we charge for people to become a member of the community. We do that not because we're crazy, but because I like to think we're pretty smart. So why not help our whole industry and allow that to bring us good karma and good press, good words, and ultimately lead us to where we want to go. So, how do you get your prospects involved? It can't just be by having a little blog or having this website that's got all this keyword optimization. That's just not enough anymore. What are you doing to really get your prospects involved? Now, once you've got them involved, you have to keep them involved. And so it will do me no good to create a community of 100,000 people if they don't do something to be involved in the community. It's easy to hand me $99. I don't want the $99. I want the participation. I want people to be involved. And so how do I keep my clients involved? Now, for me, that applies to my community members. I want them to always be involved. But ultimately, the people who move on to being licensed and that, I want them to stay involved as well. And so, what are you going to do to make sure your clients continue to use you? Well, one of the things that we certainly offer, here's a little plug on the change grid, although let me look at the list here. I think all of you are active users of the change grid, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir. But you might have heard me mention Jody Charlotte before. Jody is one of our ChangeWorks professionals in Atlanta, and she got certified, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe longer now. And she does something that I thought was absolutely brilliant, and that is that she has exit change grids. So basically, she does a great deal of executive level coaching. So she's working with a client, and the issues they were working on are kind of coming to a closure. And so whenever she gets the feeling that the relationship is winding down, she creates a new ChangeWorks profile that's populated with all the things that this client has to continue doing doing after this coaching relationship ends, or new things that came up that haven't been even addressed yet, haven't explored yet. So it's kind of an activity list filled with activities of continuation and activities that have yet to begin. And so she has the person fill it out, and then they look at the change grid, and she reads the change grid, and they invariably realize that they're not done yet. And so she has been able to use the change grid as a very powerful tool for perpetuating that by keeping clients involved. Now, it's great if you guys want to use the change grid for that, particularly those of you that are licensed to use it, you might as well. So that's all fine. But what about people that aren't using the change grid with individual clients? Well, one of the things you can do to certainly keep your clients involved is to have an organic needs assessment process. And that just means that you are routinely checking in with people, maybe even following the path of self-discovery, which all of you learned when you went through the training you received as being a community member. So this is just always asking people, what's happening right now? What do you want to do? What's in your way? How are we going to take care of that? If you constantly keep that path of self-discovery as an integrated piece of every discussion you have with someone, don't be at all surprised that the relationships have no reason to ever end. So, how do you keep clients involved? Now, if you want to think about how do I keep them involved more at the group level, so instead of having to do things one by one, what could I do to keep my whole group a little bit more involved? Well, this is where you want to make sure that you have some sort of special event that you are putting on frequently enough that it feels special, or rather frequently enough that it has some sustained impact, but infrequently enough that it feels special. And so this could be something like, for those of you that are coaches and maybe you don't do a lot of webinars, why don't you decide to do a once a month webinar on some topic that you believe all of your prospective clients, existing clients, former clients might find interesting? And then do something to market that particular event, like, this is something we only do once a quarter, or this month here's our special topic. And this is I think a really good way to do that. So keeping your clients involved. Now, I will say to you that when you are using your blog or your Twitter feeds or whatever it is, that's also something that's supporting keeping people aware of who you are, what they're doing. I want to keep them involved in the actual work that I'm trying to do with them. Now, when we get into the marketing part, I will tell you that whenever you are doing an event for marketing purposes, you have to be very careful that that event has an overall sort of net increase in the person's level of productive tension. The goal of any sort of interaction you're having with any of your members or your existing clients is to keep their level of productive tension high enough that they're engaged. As long as that happens, they're continuing to see how you fit in, see value in what you're doing. And so anything you can do to keep them involved. But doing ongoing needs assessments and doing those special events are something that all of you can do. Those of you that are ChangeWorks certified, you should be using the Change Grid, not only as a way to get prospects involved, but certainly as a way to keep your existing clients and customers involved as well. Next thing, being persistent in your pursuit to serve. What I mean by this is that we have to always make sure that our clients are aware that we want to be of service to them, that we are, we're glad we're helping them with this particular project, but we want to keep on doing that. Now, a couple of things that I do with my clients. You might think this is kind of strange, but I do it. I have a policy that says that no matter how much of my time you hire me for, if I'm going to be there for the day, you can use me for the whole day. So whether you hire me to do a 1 hour keynote or a full day program, the price is the same. Now, that's a little bit different if I can get in my car and drive somewhere, but usually I'm on a plane. And if I'm on a plane, my day is shot. Whether you use me for an hour or use me for the whole day, I'm there. Now, why would I be willing to give a client a full day's worth of my time if they were willing to give me the same amount of money for just an hour of that? Well, it's because I'm trying to get I'm trying to infiltrate the organization. I'm trying to be viewed as valuable as possible. So the more people that know me, the more people that get exposed to what I do and how it affects what they're doing, the more that buzz I can create, the better. And so I would say, like, for example, for a keynote address, let's say it's an evening kind of a thing. I would say, well, let me come in the afternoon. I'll meet with some of your key decision makers, get a few of their key agenda items, private messages or whatever they want me to communicate to the audience, and just kind of chalk it all up to customization. If they want me to go out and have a meal with them, I'm happy to do that. They want to go out for drinks afterwards. You got to believe I'm there. This is what I'm trying to do, is just say, I want them to know I'm here to serve you. And so my contract even says that from the moment I land until the moment I leave, I belong to my client. So, regardless of how much of my time they have actually engaged, then they can use me for the moment I land until the moment I leave. I want them to know that I'm available to them, and this has really allowed me then to meet people I otherwise would not have met, to be included in conversations I otherwise would never have even heard, and to offer my services and show my value in ways that I don't know how I would have made happen otherwise. And so, but it's this desire, because they kind of go like, you're willing to do that? And I go like, I have a daily rate. If I'm going to do something for you on a day, no matter how much of my time it's going to take on that day, I'm going to charge you for the day. And so use the day. You're already paying for it. So I found that people really resonate with that quite well. I can also share with you that I like traveling with my clients, and so when I'm in Europe, I do a great deal of travel by train, and I often, will talk to one of my clients and figure out, well, where are they traveling somewhere? So how come I can't just sit on the plane or the train next to them and use that sort of time? But I always want to position it that, if we're going to be on the same train together, let me give you some coaching while all that. I'm not I want to pick your brain. I want you to take advantage of me being there. I want you to get more value out of me being there. So be persistent in your pursuit to serve. So the next thing, as I said, is about managing levels of access to you. So one of the ways that you can differentiate yourself is by making yourself a little more difficult to reach than people might imagine. And so here's how I do that. We certainly have our business phone numbers, and I've got my cell phone, but I have a special phone number that I only give to certain people. Whether it happens to be a toll free number nowadays. Toll free seems to be less and less and less because telecommunications is getting so cheap. But I want to make myself available to an exclusive group of people in a very exclusive kind of way. And so that way they knew they were always available. Like even my clients today, when I'm talking to my most elite corporate clients, I say to them, here are all my phone numbers, and you are to call me anytime, day or night, because my clients are all around the planet. I don't want them to be thinking about, wow, I wonder if he's sleeping or not. No, if you have an issue, you call me, and let's do that. I've never had anyone abuse that. I've never had someone call me and it not end up leading to some sort of business. So, I'm kind of glad that it all happened. But point is, you want to manage the levels of access to you. Now, one of the things that we could be doing in our community is that, okay, I'm delivering programs. Stephen can be delivering programs. And so at a certain point, you kind of go like, all right, what level we'll talk about professionals. What level of our licensed professionals should have open access to me, and what levels of our professionals need to go through Stephen to kind of perform triage, and then Stephen will either help with the issue or he'll pass it on to me, as the case may be. How are you managing those levels of access to you? Obviously, if you're only working with a handful of individual clients, you're going to think like, well, what different levels of access could there possibly be? But why isn't it? When you buy a computer or you're subscribing to a sort of service, they have different levels of subscriber privilege. And so it's all about trying to maintain a feeling of exclusivity and actually delivering on that exclusivity. So managing levels of access to you makes you more and more different. Um, the last one I mentioned here is about integrity and congruity. So this is a tough one for a lot of people. So let me just tell you what I'm getting at here, and this is about fee integrity. Fee integrity and and conditions integrity just means that you have made a choice about how much you're going to charge people. You've made your choice about how you wish to be treated on the road, what your terms and conditions are, etc. And these are what you expect from everyone. I don't negotiate. My fees are what my fees are. My terms and conditions are what my terms and conditions are. You either want it or you don't. If you can't meet those requirements, then the question comes up, under what circumstances are you willing to breach your integrity in order to land a deal? And how do you feel knowing that you have just caved to someone else's pressure? And that means all the people that really believed in you are being abused. So, if you really start thinking about the world of discounting and the negotiable environment and all that, it has a much uglier side to it than most people would care to admit. So, bottom line is that, and just think about this for a second. Why is it that we are willing to give a better deal to the prospect who is aggressive with us, demanding with us, who is, saying they don't have the money, where we give the worst deal to the people who believe in who we are, see our value, and are willing to do whatever, we normally ask. So why is it that we're giving a better deal to the person who hassled us than to the person who was so gracious and supportive of us? So I've never liked that. And so I decided long ago I was never going to reward bad behavior. And so, and I needed to be able to go like, I have integrity. And so here's how, pardon me, you can actually live in a world where negotiation is kind of expected, but the integrity is most important to you. So if you guys were to look at my fee schedule, it says that I have a standard fee for whatever it is I want to do. And I talked about this a few sessions ago about getting paid what you're worth. I'm sorry. But I say, if you can use a date that I have available within the next 6 weeks, here's the rate for that. Now, there is a discounted rate, but that discounted rate is available to everybody, anybody who wants to use me within that time period. Or I also have what I call long range booking. If you are willing to use a day that I have that is at least 3 months out, beyond, I'm willing to sell the first 5 days that I sell in any month for that discounted price. And so I call it the first 5 for 5. My normal rate is 10,000 a day, but I will sell the first 5 dates I sell in any month. I'll sell them for $5,000 each. Now, usually my existing clients are the ones who snatch those up because that's how they end up saving money. And so they go way ahead. What do you have what do you have coming up in July? What do you have in August? What do you have in September? And they know those first 5 dates are going to be sold for $5,000 a day. Now, the truth is that I won't sell more than 5 days of that 5,000 bit. If you just did those 5 days a month at $5,000 a day, you're looking at a $300,000 year. So worse things will happen in my life than to only, make, 300,000. That'd be crazy to do. So, I'm saying to you, it's like, I don't mind saying to someone, no, those 5 dates are gone. And so do you want to use one for next month, or do you want to, pay the normal price for it? You have to stay consistent with whatever it is. And this is a message I talk to so many of the ChangeWorks professionals about during their private coaching, because I hear them changing their pricing structure with different deals, and these deals are not like years apart. These deals are happening within weeks, and they're giving one client this particular deal and another client this particular deal, and you go like, why are you doing that? And it's because they're going like, well, this person didn't put up a big fight and this person did. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, then you can never use these people for testimonials. You can never use these people to give you any kind of reference, because what are you going to do if the one that got the sweet deal said, hey, this is the deal that I got them and here's how I did it? Next thing you know is you've got them training people on how to brutalize you further. And so I say, enough already. What you want to do is say, I have to make my own decisions about what I want for my time. And I have to make my own decisions about how I want to be treated when I'm on the road, and then I've got to live with whatever those what those decisions happen to be, and that's what I've done. Inside of that, you can still do things. So, for example, when it comes to something like, you do a lot of very large corporate clients, I don't mind saying to them as well that if you're going to use X number of days that I have in the given year, I'll give you this particular rate. But I give that rate to everybody. That rate is not the result of some negotiation. That rate is simply one of the different pricing options I offer to someone. And when it comes to consulting, okay, I start off, I'm $1,000 an hour as my way of saying I don't want to work for an hour. So instead, I say, well, it's $500 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. And if you're willing to book X number of hours in advance, do kind of like a retainer sort of a thing, then here's the price there. So I'm not saying you can't have lots of different options inside of your pricing structure. I'm saying your pricing structure should be something that you would freely publish for all to see, and then you handle that. The fact that you've got that level of integrity could get you some pushback early on, but sooner or later, they're going to know this is a person who's got great integrity. We can trust whatever it is that they're saying or doing. And so I think there's a big, big, big payoff if you differentiate yourself in that particular way. Okay, pardon me. So with that, let's move on to style differentiation. Oh, I'm sorry, one moment. Allergies, pollen, who needs it? Let's see, Eugenia has a comment here. Interested in helping people, you would do it for whatever they're willing and or able to pay. They believe in progressive taxes and redistribution of wealth. Well, here's my thing about if I'm working with a group of people um, that are trying to play on my desire to be of service to others, then this is what I would say to them. Like for a nonprofit organization, I would say to them, I would rather give you the service for free than give you a discount on my services. I would rather your audience view me as a $5,000 to $10,000 a day presenter who is giving their services to your group for free than to be that person who settled for $1,000. And then there I'm going like, hey, if my other clients saw I'm $5,000, they're going like, yeah, right. You just settled for $1,000. So that's not congruent. I don't believe you. So we want to say to them, I'd rather give it to you for free than give it to you for a discounted price. But the other thing that I want you to always keep in mind is that you get paid in a lot more ways than money. And so there's no reason why we can't say that while it is you may not have the $5,000 or whatever, I do expect you to give me $5,000 worth of value in return for what I'm giving you. And so that value could be in the form of you being featured in their newsletter, that you're given access to their mailing list to be able to start to promote some things to people, that they're going to give you some booth space, list you as a sponsor. They're going to somehow or another video or audio record the program and give you access to the results of all that. There are lots of different ways that you can get full value for what you're giving. And then you're not giving a discount. You're saying like, no, 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 you want my services. The services cost X. You must give me X in forms of cash or other things that I value just as much as I value that cash. So there's ways that you could do around it. Hopefully that answered the question. Yeah. Okay, so next thing, style differentiation. Now we're talking about the more delivery. While it seems that this is focusing more on the training side of things, I think it also applies to coaching and to consulting as well. There are traditional ways for us to deliver our services, and there are unique ways of doing it. Anything you can do to stand out from everyone else is really great. So, for example, let's say that traditionally in a sales training program, people are going to be doing role plays and that. Well, then someone came along and said, well, we're going to do role plays, but we're going to videotape them so you have the video to review and to work on moving forward. Well, for a while that was a real differentiator, and then they said, no, we're going to take this is state of the art now. We're going to take your demonstration. We're going to put it up online, and we're going to invite a full panel of sort of independent secret shopper types to watch your video and critique it. And you can charge for that service or whatever, but now you're talking about something that's more of a unique delivery. So rather than just saying like, oh, look, your colleagues thought you did a good job, no, let's see what the like the qualified prospect base would say about your performance as well. um, Raising the bar on quality just means that whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's on your website, your print materials, anything that you might be sending out message wise, videos you're producing, that the production values are very high. For a while, a great differentiator was that you would have some little videos of yourself you could put up on YouTube or wherever else. And these things tend to be very primitive. So you're sitting in front of your webcam, you're using your built in microphones. And for a while, people were like, oh, wow, how cool is that? You know, you can actually see this guy. Well, then that got to be very, very routine. And now we're up to the point that if you really want your videos to stand out, there's some real production value that people are looking for. So they're looking for things to have, some title slides and maybe some music and maybe some, visuals that are coming in and out. And then those things take time to actually do, and they cost a lot of money to hire somebody else to do. But nevertheless, if you really want to differentiate yourself, then you get some real points by having your the quality looked at. In fact, you guys can put this to the test. How many of you have ever uh, visited someone's website and you're reading about their website and you're looking at all their different collateral materials and you're just thinking like, wow, this person must be so successful. Just look at this image that they've got out there. And then you actually meet them and talk to them and find out they're struggling just like anybody else. So they've just done a really, really good job on the quality side of things. So it all looks really good. It's all, it's all quite right. Humor matters because people don't want to be around a downer all the time. And so anything you can do to bring a smile to someone's face changes their brain chemistry and it results in them anchoring some very positive feelings to you. So, not a mistake. One of the things that I'm always getting feedback around when I do one of my presentations in front of an audience is I say that I was I was equally thought provoking and witty, that I was instructive and entertaining, and so you need to have this pleasantness around it as well. So humor really does matter, and then obviously you can also differentiate yourself a lot by reinforcement. So when one of your clients is finished with their coaching relationship, what do you do to reinforce what it is that you covered? So and, we're really hoping you could find a system that can do this, a way to remind people to continue to do whatever the exercises were that you helped them develop, or something to just kind of bring the principles that you were focusing on back to their attention. So, for example, when we put people through Master Stream training, following the Master Stream training, there's a battery of 12 email lessons that we send out. And what it's basically doing is reinforcing the dozen most important subjects we covered during that sales training program. And so we give them one of those each week for 12 weeks. So we've been reinforcing this, keeping it fresh on their mind for a good long while. We don't charge for that reinforcement system. And so there's another differentiator, and it certainly adds value to the overall equation. So no longer are they paying me, $5,000, $10,000 for a day of my time. That time also includes with it, or that money also includes with it, some coaching that came along up front, some customization work that I did, and there's also some reinforcement that gets plugged into that as well. So lots of things you can do on the style differentiation side of things. And then last, this is on the image differentiator. This is something that people have probably focused on more than the others over the course of decades of me being in this industry. Image differentiation. This is how you look, how you can be remembered. So it's very important in our industry that we are both attractive and memorable. We've met a lot of people who focused on the memorable part. In fact, there's all kinds of people out there in the world of coaching and training and not so much consulting, but have decided to do something to their wardrobe so that they're always going to be remembered. Like we know one speaker who wears outrageous hats. And that would be great if this speaker was a woman, but unfortunately, it's a guy, and he's wearing truly, truly outrageous hats. The hats are so outrageous that you wonder if you're about to hear a comedian present, or at least a humorist. But nope, he's just doing it because he thinks that his crazy collection of hats is going to make sure you always remember him. So that's all fine. I want you to make sure that you are being remembered for all the right reasons. And so we have another colleague, and she happens to always wear a flower on whatever the jacket or whatever she happens to be wearing. And the flowers are always like these $10 orchids that have just arrived from wherever the case may be. So there's always something really interesting and beautiful around it. Well, that's attractive. That's memorable. That's going to help. Um, when we do the program about credibility, one of the things I'm going to tell you is that credibility is built from multiple components. And one of those components is dynamism. Dynamism is a lot about how you look and how you carry yourself. And there has been a lot of research done in that field, but basically it says that we are more likely to view people that are physically attractive, that look good and sound good and smell good. We're going to give them more credibility than we will someone who doesn't look so good, doesn't sound so good, and doesn't smell so good. The fact is, the way you look and sound and smell has got absolutely nothing to do with what's going on between your ears. You could be the most brilliant person under the planet, on the planet, but if you don't look right, sound right, or smell right, you're going to lose gigantic points. And so this is what we're talking about on the differentiator side of things. You got to be attractive, and by attractive, it means look good, sound good, smell good, and you'll have that. And if you're going to do something to make yourself memorable, please do it in a way that enhances your overall credibility, that doesn't just turn you into some sort of a comic. You can also differentiate yourself by how you define yourself. And so, for example, we talked earlier about, are you a coach? Are you an executive coach? What kind of a coach are you? So how you differentiate yourself could actually help you there. How you identify yourself is also an important one. We met a gentleman, I actually do not remember his real name, although Haskell or something like that, I think is his last name. We met him on a cruise ship. Oh, no, 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 no. We were doing a big event in Spain called Fuerza de Ventas. And it was this big convention of professional sellers. And they brought in all these speakers from the United States to do that. Anyway, he wrote a book called Why Should Someone Do Business with You Instead of with Someone Else? And his gimmick, he identifies himself as Dr. Revenue. And when he comes out on stage, he's wearing a lab coat, a stethoscope, everything that you would associate with a doctor. He doesn't, I don't even think he has his PhD or whatever, but he bills himself or identifies himself as Dr. Revenue. And we have a lot of people among our ChangeWorks professionals who are very unique people with great little personalities. And people do come and say something, label them in a certain way. And I'm trying to remember what Jane Garrett's kind of assigned name is from her clients, but she is someone who she's a humorist. So no matter what the situation is, she has an ability to find something funny in it. And again, the difference between a comedian and a humorist is that a comedian tells jokes. A humorist teaches important life lessons through humor. And so, she's definitely a humorist. You are learning something every moment you listen to her, but you're also going to be laughing, maybe even to the point of tears by the time that she's done with that. Um, just two more quick things. Our time is up here, but this idea about how do you communicate with others? When was the last time any of you sat down and hand wrote a thank you note to any of your clients? I mean, a handwritten note, and holiday cards don't count. When was the last time you just wrote that thank you sort of note? When was the last time you actually sent one of your clients snail mail? You really want to stand out. Stop sending emails. Send things snail mail. It might take 2 or 3 days to get there. But when was the last time any of you even received a letter that you wanted to open up? And here it was, this beautiful letter. Didn't have to be handwritten, but it was a letter that someone bothered printing out and signing and putting in an envelope and putting a stamp on it and sending it over to you. So sometimes these social touches that have fallen so much by the wayside are a great differentiator as well. And then the last one here, and I'm just going to hurry through it, is about how you serve your community. So beyond what you do for your business, what are you doing to support your community? And whether that's the neighborhood you live in or the city that you live in, you differentiate yourself a lot, not so much by what you do in your work, but by what you do outside of work. So what causes are you affiliated with, and how are you going about volunteering your time and providing your support? Or are you serving as a board member on any of the professional associations? How are you serving your community? Those sorts of things can be very key differentiators. So, for example, if you are a coach and you want to differentiate yourself from all the coaches, what do you think the person who's the current president of ICF might be able to say to clients in the future? And just because they were president of the ICF, any prospective client is probably going to think like, well, then they must be a really, really good coach. Well, I have to imagine that they probably are a really, really good coach, but during that year that they served as the president of ICF Global, I got to believe they were pretty busy doing some things other than coaching or in addition to their coaching. So, but how you serve your community, great differentiator, but obviously you have to put a spotlight on that. All right, so with that, next week's topic, troubles with tools of the trade. Am I equipped to succeed?